Hi, Mark Llewhellin here. Today I'm going to be interviewing Tracy Edwards, who jumped in a yacht a few years ago and sailed around the world with her crew and won the Whitbread All Around the World Challenge. She got an MBE from the Queen and she became the first female in history to get the Yachtsperson of the Year award. Today we're going to interview Tracy on her tips for success. Tracy, thank you for inviting us into your beautiful home today. You've done a bit of sailing, so yeah, you came out. Let me go back years ago. You came out of sort of school, and were you a sailor from school, or how did you get into the sailing?
That's a better question than the one that I normally get.
I'm good at answering. I'm just great at questions. I'm just good.
Well, the one I normally get is, how did you forge a career in sailing, which is so overstating how it happened.
Yeah.
So I was expelled from school when I was 15.
Were you?
Yeah. I went from an English boarding school to a Welsh comprehensive school.
I want to know about how you got expelled. Come on. Can you say how you got expelled, or is it like?
Well, it was a number of things basically. I was bullied really badly because I was English.
And then you said the girl's hair on fire, didn't you?
No.
What?
No. I was bullied.
Yeah.
And I was. It was an accumulation of then not going to school, and I was having big problems at home. My life kind of imploded after my father died, so things became quite tough for me. Instead of dealing with them, I ran away.
Oh,
so after suspending me a number of times, my headmaster finally had enough, and that's probably the best thing that could ever have happened to me, because my mum was so amazing, very forgiving. And she took the bull by the horns and she said to me, listen, she said, you're obviously not happy, education's obviously not working out for you. So she said, why don't you go travelling? I was 16 years old, and she
said,
she packed me off with a backpack
around the world.
I know she might have an ulterior motive, I don't know. But she travelled, she was a dancer, she travelled in a dancing troupe all over the world, and she said to me, she was such an extraordinary woman, she said to me things like, there's no one way to live your life. The way you live your life will be the right way. If you don't go to university, it's not the end of the world.
That's amazing for somebody to say that, because parents are normally like, do this. I'm 42, my mum is still like, Mark, do this, do that, and I'm like, come on.
Yeah, no, I think she realised that I was mixing with an interesting group of people at the time, and it could have all gone horribly wrong, and the best thing was to get me out. And I think that was incredibly brave of her, and it's only now I have a 16-year-old daughter that I realise how brave that was of her, because there's no way I would let her go backpacking around Europe at the age of 16. I just wouldn't do it. Admittedly, things have changed slightly, but I was just so lucky. So I went backpacking, ended up working in a bar in Greece, and I would see all these beautiful yachts in the harbour, and I'd think, really rich, important people must be on those boats. No one like me. And a guy came in one night and he said, do you want to are you looking for another job? So I said, well, yeah, I don't really. I was 17 at that point. 17, don't know what I want to do. No qualifications, no exams. I want to do.
We've all been there, haven't we?
But thought I knew everything, obviously. And he said, do you want to be a stewardess on a boat? He said, I've got a chance coming up. I've just lost my stewardess. How do you fancy that? I was like, yeah, okay. So next day, literally, I left the job I was at, got on the boat, not knowing anything.
Yeah. And
4 days later, I thought, oh my goodness, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And it was just, wow, lucky, very, very lucky. So I fell into it. I just fell across it.
That's fantastic. And how you said about being around the right people, the wrong people. How important is that to succeeding in life, or having a great life? Who you associate with?
I think one of the most important things I've learned through my life is to get rid of the people who are negative in your life and who are, there are people that give and there are people that suck and take.
They drain you. You can't wait for them to get out of the room.
Yeah. And the older you get, you see, the more eccentric I become. My daughter thinks now I'm very eccentric.
You can't tolerate them, is it?
Well, I don't have to.
No.
Anymore. And it's not about being rude or anything like that. It's just about being selective. And I think the older you become, the more confident you become in your choice of friends, and you don't have to please everyone all the time and be liked by everyone all the time. You have those people who, you have your old friends, every so often you'll meet a new one, but quite rarely, I think, as you get older, and you're more not selective, but I think you recognise the sort of you recognise the people that are going to enhance your life and that you're going to enjoy being friends with, and who are going, you know, have that same joy of everything. I think that's...
Yeah. How, when did you actually go into the sort of transition of, right, I want to start sailing myself now, I want my own boat? And did you start off with the little rubber dinghy, or how did it start?
No, I don't do dinghies. No, sorry. I have joined a yacht club on the Thames, but the dinghies are very small, and I think, no, thank you very much.
No.
So
we got a little. Can you get the dog? It's a dog in the shot. Hi, totally photo bombed here. But we like it. We like. And what? Can you introduce the?
So this is our rescue dog, Lulu.
This Lulu. We got Lulu in the shot as well.
She's from Wales.
But everybody, and where you? Because you got Edwards. Your last name was Edwards.
Well, my father was Welsh.
Yeah.
I was born in England, but I grew up in Wales.
You're a bit posh now, girl, living in London.
Well, you see, I grew up for the first 10 years of my life with a very English accent.
Yeah.
It was only when I went to a comprehensive school in Wales I learned to speak with a Welsh accent in about 5 seconds, realising I was going to die if I didn't.
Yeah, you better take elocution
so
lessons.
I lived there for a number of years, so I can feel it coming back every so often,
especially
when I cross the Severn Bridge.
Yeah.
My daughter.
And there's Danielle and Nick in the room as well doing the filming and stuff. And
yeah,
we're all Welsh, so
it's overwhelming.
Now you're in trouble in London. But so yeah, what was the first boat? How did that all happen?
Well, I kind of went. I was again. I've been very, very lucky, and again with people, and I think because my mum, keep going on about it, just gave me some great advice. You know, she said, if you open yourself up to the universe, the right people will appear in your life at the right time. She said, you know, open yourself up to everything and meet everyone, and you know, and I think that's great advice. It gave me confidence and really made me want to meet people and understand who they were and how I fitted in. And so I was very adventurous and exploratory of my world. I didn't see any limits, and she'd always said to me, you know, there are no limits, and just go out there.
Wow, that's amazing from Mum to say that. There's no limits.
So I had that ability, I think, to reach out to people, and I had an amazing series of skippers who were just extraordinary mentors and who saw something in me, goodness knows what. But the first skipper I had, you know, persuaded me, why you're a stewardess? You know, if you cook, you can get more money. I said, oh, well, you know, I'm useless at everything. I can't do anything. I won't be able to learn to cook. He said, it's more money. So I went, right, okay, I'll learn to cook.
Show me the money. You're the Jerry Maguire moment, like, show me, yeah. I'll have some of that.
Yeah, thank you. And the next skipper I had was, not the next one, but the next one after that, second transatlantic crossing, doing, so I guess we were about 4 days into it. He said, can you navigate? And I went, no, I was expelled before long division.
Yeah.
You know, I can't navigate.
I go into Tesco and I come out and I have no idea where my car is. Literally. I can navigate around mountains and all sorts of places.
Oh, I'm not good on land. No, sea is fine, not good on land. I get lost anywhere.
For me, Tesco's or any of the supermarkets, no idea where my car's going.
That's the human race then, I'd say. But he said to me, anyone can learn to navigate. He said, I'll teach you in 2 days. So I was like, yeah, right, okay. 2 days later, I was navigating, and I navigated the whole way across the Atlantic. God. And I'll never forget the feeling. So we came into Vilamoura, and in Portugal, and we sailed in, and when you sail into a harbour and you've navigated with a paper chart and tables and a sextant.
You were one of those little,
yeah.
It's like sextant. I was trying to describe it like, what are those things in school where you put like, there's a blade that goes down and then there's like
those are your
a pencil.
Yeah, so
it goes round. What are they called?
Dividers.
I can't remember what they're called. You don't even got a clue of it.
I
don't know either.
But the sailing version's dividers, and so you use them to measure on the chart, but your sextant is what you use to measure the
That's Columbus stuff, isn't it? Flipping that.
It's fascinating stuff. So I fell in love with navigation. The navigation really became my thing. It was the thing I loved doing. You never get over finding You never get over finding out where you are with just this very basic stuff, and then sailing straight into a port that you've been sailing 3,000 miles to get to. It's like,
yeah,
I am the man.
So are you doing this with,
cool.
with the stars and sun and moon and all of this business?
Yeah, which is unfortunately a lost art these days because most boats have sat navs and people aren't, they don't really encourage them to do all this stuff. So it's a lost art. Paper charts are also a lost art, which I think is very sad.
It's cool though, isn't it? If you know how to do that.
And that just. Sorry, I need to get out more, obviously. But no, so it is like it's like a magical art, like something out of Hogwarts, navigation. So that became my thing, and I then became the first mate, and I kind of moved my way up. And again, with great mentors, great skippers who kept saying to me, "You could be so much more than you think you can. Why don't you get up off your backside and do something?" What
was the qualities you think that, I know you're not going to blow your own trumpet because you're very humble, but it's like, what were the qualities that they were looking for where they wanted you to move up, to say, this is the right girl, out of all the other girls, this is the one. What did you do exactly?
I don't know really. I think, well, Mike once said to me, my first skipper said to me, he said, I always felt that there was stuff in there that you haven't tapped into. And remember when the first boat I ever got on, I was still quite beaten down. I still thought I was useless at everything. No matter what my mum had said to me, I'd failed at school, I'd failed at my first job, I'd, kind of like almost run away from home, run away to sea. So it took a lot for me to.
You're a goddamn tearaway girl. You're like a St. Trinian's girl.
Without the short skirt.
Without the short skirt.
So yeah, maybe there was that. Maybe it was the rebel in me that people saw and thought. And I work with young people now, and I some of the most extraordinary young people I work with now are the biggest rebels. But once you take that energy and that determination and you point it in the right direction, you like the blue touch paper and let them go. So that's what people did with me, really. They saw in me that kind of bloody mindedness, I think, really, and thought, well, let's turn that and use that for something good rather than something bad. And God, think about some of the people I grew up with who didn't have the chances that I had, who didn't get away, and
but you moved yourself into those chances, didn't you?
Well, I did, but then I was also very lucky. But then I did grab the opportunities as they came along.
How much has luck got to do with success, do you think?
I think, the harder I work, the luckier I become. I think with sailing especially, it's a very visual way to look at luck, because when you're sailing around the world, you're trying to reduce the luck element to the tiniest part of everything you're doing. You can't rule it out completely. So you're trying to get the best boat, the best team. You're trying to do the most amount of training.
Yeah. To
have the best advisors, the best shore team, the best plan, the best structure. To be the fittest, to be the most eating the best food. So
you're like squeezing the luck out of it almost.
Exactly.
And you need a little bit of luck.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But there will always be that element of luck, always. So when we won the second leg, for instance, of the Whitbread, which no one, of course, thought we could do, I had a decision to make. Do I go north or south of the Llewhellin Islands in the Southern Ocean? It's a tiny island in the middle of nowhere, right in our way. It's like, really?
How inappropriate.
I know. So do we go south or do we go north?
I haven't gone north. Where did you go?
We went south.
And that's why I'm not a sailor. That's why I'd be dead now if I started doing this stuff.
But the only reason we went south was because I didn't get the same weather facts through that everyone else managed to get through.
Yeah.
Weather facts in those days were a nightmare. I mean, we didn't have satellites and all these amazing things they had now. We had a weather fax.
Oh, fax.
No, fax. Yeah.
Oh, right.
With these. Just nightmare. You could barely make out what was on these things. And I spent most of my life on the boat looking at them going, there must be something in there, something I can understand. I didn't get one through. All the rest of the fleet got one through.
And which way did they go?
Everyone went north. I got the later one, you see. Just by luck, I got the later one, and it was clearer, and I went,
so everyone went north, and you went, that's fantastic, isn't it? So sometimes...
But obviously most of it was down to my superior navigation.
Well, of course, you know, that goes without saying. But sometimes there's... sometimes you think things are going wrong in your life, and then you look back at it and you think, hey, I'm glad that happened. That happens, doesn't it?
That describes my entire life. Winston Churchill's greatest quote, I think, is, "Success is the ability to move from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm."
Yeah.
Because nothing is a failure. You know, it doesn't matter if you can, you know, so that if you can treat success and disaster the same. And that's the thing. It's not about, oh, this was a success and this was a disaster. This was a place in your life and it happened and it's a lesson and it's to be used. And you can look at it and go, oh my God, that was a complete nightmare. Oh, you know, this has ruined my life. Or you can go, not exactly where I wanted to be right now, but, you know, look at all these other things this has opened up for me. And you're so right, I look back at some points in my life and I desperately wanted something to happen, but if it had happened the way I wanted it, oh, my life would have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
So, it's you know, Darwin once said it's not the fastest, the strongest or the most intelligent of us that will survive, it's those who are most adaptable to change. And that says everything I think about success and how we go through the process of learning from our disasters, learning from our successes. And it doesn't, and that's the thing as well that I think that really taught me more than anything else. It didn't matter whether we were an all-female crew or up against all male crews or whatever. We were rolling with the punches, we were making the changes, and we were, it didn't matter what was thrown in our way because it was all...
You would adapt to it.
We just adapted
whatever
to it.
happened.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's the same, and you think that's the same with life?
Absolutely, because some of our disadvantages became advantages. So our disadvantage was we're not as strong as guys. We are not. We're not as heavy and we're not as strong. We don't have that brute force. That's why women are better at doing long distance racing because we have better stamina.
Yeah.
And why we cannot do America's Cup racing now because, you know, the boys have decided they're going to design these boats so that we can't sail them because they are too hard now for us to sail. We don't have the strength or the weight. We don't have the, you know, the body mass, if you like, to sail these boats. But we do have stamina, we have an extra layer of fat. We have that because we're built to survive, we're built to nurture. So we started thinking, well, how do we use what we were given and counteract the stuff that we don't naturally have? I mean, obviously we can train, we can get stronger, we can have better fitness. The stamina thing for us was a really important thing. And also using our brains instead of brawn. So there were situations that we physically couldn't sail the boat as fast in as men. Yeah. So we developed a sail design that meant that we didn't have to fly a spinnaker, which was dangerous and too heavy for us to get down. So we designed a poled out headsail. We designed it ourselves.
What is that?
So it's a headsail which is safer and secure, and you pole it out, and it's called goose winging. So you've got your mainsail out there and your headsail out there. It's very solid, it's very stable. Whereas a spinnaker is, you know, it's a movable feast, and it's permanently terrifying. And we got to the point where on the third leg, we were just sailing with this combination up. We saw Racanor ahead of us on the horizon with the spinnaker up. Heavy! And we overtook them on the water, as you know, waving as we went past.
So you did you wave to them?
Below the thing, because we didn't.
Good God! What sort of behaviour is that?
But then, two of the other boats designed their own headsail.
At least
they could then pole out.
At least you didn't flip from the bird or anything, did you? You didn't go that far, did you? You didn't give them the V's or any sign language or nothing like that.
No. Listen, we all rely on each other at sea. You don't want to annoy them.
No, because if you capsize and they just might. They'll come across with some of their own sign language, won't they? They'll be like, have some of that. Yeah, you mentioned Charles Darwin and Mr. Churchill. You read a little bit, or do you read a lot, or how influential do you think these people are to succeed in? Some people call it standing on the shoulders of giants, learning off other people.
I read a lot. Not so much at the moment, but of course when you're at sea, you know, people think it's, you know, all go, but it's not really. It's 99% boredom interspersed with 1% sheer terror. and that describes sailing pretty well. So you've got time in your bunk, or you've got downtime, and it's such a great time to read. So the last time I went around the world, I was reading Shackleton by Roland Huntsford.
He is amazing.
Wow,
Shackleton blows Ernest.
He is my ultimate hero.
He's mine. Bring it in, girl. Shackleton. And it is like, because he went down to the Antarctic and he was supposed to go from A to B. It all went pear-shaped, but his story of how he got the guys back alive is just phenomenal. It's just fun. It's even greater than some of the great Antarctic explorers.
It is the greatest.
It is the greatest story, isn't it? It's just that.
Yeah. His journey from Elephant Island to South Georgia, and then crossing South Georgia, and then 3 attempts to get back, and not one man dying, is better than walking to the pole.
It is.
And then your men dying on the way back because you were too arrogant to
and
pull
who did
back
that?
before that.
Adamson.
I don't know, some guy. You're either in the Scott camp or the Shackleton camp. It's like,
yeah.
But no, I mean, what I learned from Shackleton was about leading from the front, that your men, your women in this case, are always watching you, and that was something I'd never considered about being a skipper. I thought, oh well, I need to know this and I need to know that. And remember, I went from, the first time I sailed around the world, I sailed around as a cook on the 85-86 Whitbread with a complete bunch of pirates on a boat called Atlantic Privateer. I survived that somehow, and then my next thing was a skipper, so I went from cook to skipper. So I had these sort of ideas.
That's a heck of a thing to go from a cook to a skipper.
Well, I wasn't going to skip a maiden, I was just going to put it together and then find someone to skipper it. But then there wasn't anyone. So King Hussein of Jordan was our sponsor, and he sat me down. I went for dinner with him.
So were you just walking down the street one day and you bumped into King Hussein? How did that happen?
I was a stewardess.
Hi King Hussein, how are you doing? Do you fancy a pint? So how did that work?
I was stewardess on a boat he chartered in America when Prince Abdullah was graduating from college in America.
Yeah.
So Queen Noor and King Hussein came out for a day sail. I was the stewardess, and he gave me his contact details and said, if you ever need anything, just give me a call. I was like, right, okay. Got home a few months later from doing a couple of races in transatlantics. My mother said, I called my mum, she went, right, what have you been up to? I went, I just sailed across the Atlantic. I have done absolutely nothing wrong. Nothing. Yeah. She went, there's some man calling saying he's King Hussein of Jordan.
No,
went, it is! Oh God, what did you say?
There's some nutter on the phone. Have you got a new boyfriend? He thinks he's King Hussein of Jordan. What's going on here?
So he wanted me to go and have dinner with him and Queen Noor.
Yeah.
Who's just, again, very strong woman, real women's rights, still is. And they were fascinated by the fact that I was just about to do my first Whitbread, the 85-86 race, which I did, and then when I finished that and told him I was going to do maiden, he was very supportive the whole way along. I mean, it would never have happened without him. No British company would touch us. You know, Royal Jordanian Airlines were just phenomenal, and so was he, and so was she, and in fact the whole family. We spent quite a bit of time over in Jordan, and it was him that said to me, you've got to skipper this, why would you not? You know, I said, because I don't know how to. He said, yes you do. You actually do know how to, you just don't know it.
Yeah.
So that was the whole thing with Shackleton. What I took away from that was that it was his feminine qualities really which made him an outstanding leader, which I thought was interesting, because Captain Frank Worsley, when he writes of the boat journey, the worst boat journey in the world, writes of Shackleton, his greatest qualities are his feminine qualities. And it was his ability to understand his team and his men and what drove them. So that was an inspiration for me. And the other thing I think that comes across from him is that he was very aware all the time that people are watching him. So you haven't got this arrogant, I'll do as I please type leader. You've got a leader thinking, they need me to look strong at the moment, or they need me to look compassionate at the moment, or they need to know that I know exactly what I'm doing at the moment, even when you have not got a clue.
Yeah.
So that for me was I have picked the pieces of what other people have done and tried to use them in some way.
With King Hussein, some people in life, they're quite ruthless and they can be quite arrogant and they still do quite well. How important do you think it is to just be nice?
I think I wouldn't say being nice. I would say having empathy for other people is the most
Putting
important.
yourself in their shoes.
Yeah, I think that quality is the greatest quality a person can have. Understanding another human being, respecting them, having empathy for them, are the things I think that make people great. I don't think arrogance or hatred or even overwhelming strength makes someone a great leader or a great teammate. And I've learned that over a number of years. I would say that's hugely important.
Yeah. So King Hussein give you your maiden, the boat, or the yacht? What do you want to call it? The dinghy. King Hussein said, "I'm going to give you a dinghy."
Well, he didn't. No, he didn't. I had to sell my house to buy a wreck, which then became maiden.
Oh, really?
He helped pay for the refit.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And we all of the girls on maiden, we couldn't afford to do it properly, so we ripped the boat apart, redesigned it ourselves, and then rebuilt it ourselves.
Did he make everyone else? So you didn't have did you say you didn't have a spinnaker on the boat?
We did have spinnakers, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that we were a little bit more imaginative with different sail.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe he orchestrated it so everyone else was spinnakers and you were that extra thing.
No.
They can all die for all I care. That's how I'm sponsored that boat.
No, that would be absolutely the opposite of King Hussein, actually.
Yeah, he's a lovely man.
Yeah,
and terrifying moments, was there parts of that journey where you thought, I'm actually going to possibly die? Or did you, yeah?
Yeah, I think there's one, the second leg was a nightmare.
We're talking about a serious bit and Lulu was just popped hello! She's talking about death and dying and she, hello!
Do you want me to go and shut the sitting room door?
Nah, that's alright.
Lulu, get down.
Nah,
down.
she's alright. She's like, this is the captain calling. Get down off that mast. Get down.
Oh, look at that poor thing.
She's beautiful.
So
It's close to death. Any thoughts?
So the second leg was the longest leg of Whitbread I've ever seen, 7,800 miles. It was 7 weeks at sea, further south than it had ever been before, so lots of icebergs. And I do remember actually having a conversation which went something like this. What do you think? We were all sitting up on deck and we knew we were coming up to an iceberg field. So I said to everyone, we're all, 10 million layers, we're all absolutely freezing cold, it's snowing,
Yeah.
So I said, what do you think the chances are of hitting an iceberg? And everyone went, well, probably really slim actually, because if you were looking for something that small, you'd never find it in the ocean, would you? I went,
Yeah.
oh, that's a really good point. The chances are probably really small, aren't they? I went, and everyone else says, yeah. I went, should we just go really fast and hope we don't hit one? And everyone went, yeah, that sounds like a plan. I think about that and I'm just
And
like,
that's
oh my God.
Which is it, so with successful people, there's an element of craziness in whatever you do, whether it's sport, whether it's business, whether it's extreme ultra distance running or anything. There's
got to be a bit of madness.
There's a bit of crazy, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like that. Was it the Apple advert years ago? Here's to the crazy ones, and it was like Richard Branson and Albert Einstein and all all these people that were like, I got this idea,
Yeah.
and it's just like you're just crazy. And how many people doubted you when you were you got this women's crew together, the first women's crew to win that race. How many people did you have doubters where people said, you haven't got a chance, or were people nice to you? How did that work out?
Most people thought we couldn't do it. Oh God, absolutely.
They were like, you won't even get around.
Yeah.
So, and where did you set off from?
So the race starts from Southampton.
So Southampton. So basically, they thought you were going to get to Gibraltar or somewhere, and then you'd be about 50 miles out, you'd be gone.
Some people thought we wouldn't get as far as the Needles. But remember, we had won our first ever race, which was a transatlantic. Everyone kind of conveniently forgot that. So we'd already won a race. We'd already beaten all the other Whitbread boats. But everything went very quiet after that.
Yeah,
so when we crossed the
isn't it?
start line, we were completely confident that we were going to do very well. But a lot of people were, they're going to die. They're going to, People were blaming the Royal Naval Sailing Association for letting us go. How could you let them go? What if they die? And that was the reason we couldn't get sponsorship in the UK. I mean, people were literally saying to us, yeah, but if you die, it'd be really bad PR for us. Publicity would be dreadful. Yeah, it would be. It wouldn't be great for us.
King Jordan was just like, get on that boat,
absolutely.
off you go.
Yeah.
You didn't...
Because someone told him once that Jordan was too small a country to have its own airline. You can't have your own airline. You're tiny and you have no money, you have no oil. And he went, right. So you see, he was quite short as well, you see. Don't annoy short people, that's what I say. So, so the first leg from Southampton down to South America. Apartheid was on at the time, and there were sanctions in South Africa. This is why then we had this really long leg down through the Southern Ocean to Australia, which was the leg that we won. But someone died on that leg, and the weather was horrendous, and the icebergs were really scary. As much as I joke about it, you're hammering through the night. You've got someone on the bow, and you're looking at the radar. You know you're going to see the icebergs on the radar, and if you see them on the bow as you're going through the ocean, you're going to hit them. It's sort of a false sense of looking for icebergs. The guy dying, I think, was. I mean, that brings you up short, and then you think it just reminds you how dangerous it is what you're doing. We won that leg, and then the third leg is from Australia to New Zealand, and we won that one as well. So halfway around the world, we were 18 hours ahead of our nearest rival, which was really annoying for some people. And that's when I became the first woman in its 34-year history to win the Yacht's Man of the Year award.
Bring it in, girl. Come on.
So 2 women have won it since then, and it's now 60 years old, but it's still called the Yacht's Man of the Year trophy.
That's crazy,
something's never changed.
But you got in back to Southampton, was it?
Yeah, so we...
And the crowd were just...
Oh, it was just amazing. We did lose our overall lead, unfortunately, because we nearly sank going around Cape Horn. We had a leak, we couldn't source it, and I mean Cape Horn was actually fine, so just as we were going past the Falkland Islands really. We had an RAF Hercules come out to watch over us as we sailed past. And we knew we could get in if there was any problem, but we lost our overall lead. And then we spent the rest of the race trying not to slip into third and catch up to first again if we could. By the time we finished in Southampton, we were just a few hours behind first, and we were in second, which is still the best result for a British boat since 1977, and it's never been beaten since. And no other all-female crew has ever done as well as us.
How many people were in the crowd? Because you expect 5 or 10 people in the crowd.
Do you want me to tell us? Shut up. It won't work.
No, that's
Lulu!
That's right. Lulus are naturally... People that call Lulu are naturally a little bit gobby.
Stop it!
Oh, the pop star looking at this now thinking, what the... I'm not doing an interview with him.
She is named after a short Scottish singer, obviously. Sorry, what was the question?
What was the question?
The number of people coming into Southampton.
How many?
They reckon there were 50,000 people on the dock when we sailed into Southampton, and it was surreal because we were coming back and we were thinking, no one's going to be that interested. You know, we're really proud of what we've done, and that's fantastic. But we were sailing towards the Needles. It was dawn. We'd had no wind on the final week. We'd run out of food. We were so desperate to get home.
Yeah.
The last week just
women
took
without
ages.
food.
Oh.
Even going up the moat. I've taken some of my ex-girlfriends on the motorway. It's like all hell breaks loose. If you ever, are you hungry, Mark? No, not really. See, this is when I was trying to understand women, the psychology, all of that sort of stuff. You hungry on the moat? No, I'm not hungry. I just carry on for miles and miles. I didn't actually realise at the time that means I want to stop my food. It took me 2 or 3 girlfriends to work that bit out. Anyway, I stop now. I really do.
Sensible man.
So there was like 50,000 people here, and just people going crazy, and people.
Well, it was sort of gradual as we got to the Needles. We saw one boat come out, and I remember Dawn, our American watch captain, she turned to me and she went, "Oh, isn't that sweet? Someone's come out to see us in." I went, "It's nice, isn't it?"
That's nice. There's one person. That's quite touching.
And we were all like, "Oh,
yeah, that's huge." Yeah.
This boat was coming out. We saw another one. And then there was another one, and there was another one, and then suddenly there was just this armada coming towards us. We were like,
What the heck?
Is there something else happening today? We were literally, is there someone important coming in today? So as they reached us, they all turned round and came in with us, and it makes me go goosebumpy.
I'm going goose pimply now, like thinking 50,000 people seeing you come in and just insane as well.
It was insane. So the water was like crazy and churning up, and everyone was screaming and shouting. They were throwing flowers, roses onto the boat.
God, like
the noise was building, and then when we crossed the finishing line, we didn't realise they brought in a firing gun, especially for us, and it was so loud. When on the footage, when you watch it, the gun goes off. You can see me shoot about a foot.
Well, it's like a big artillery or naval gun going.
Yeah, we just expected a little boom, and it was like boom. We were like, and as that went off, every ship in Southampton Harbour blew its horn.
Oh my God!
I was a wreck by this time. I was blubbing. Everyone was blubbing. It was, it was just phenomenal. It was an amazing day. And then we came round into Ocean Village.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, if I'm ever going to crash, it's going to be now. You know, middle of the ocean, not a ding. 50,000 people, I'm going to crash into the docks. All I could think of wasn't the number of people. It's like, don't crash. Don't crash the boat into the dock. Don't crash the boat into the dock. So we came in, and then it was overwhelming. I mean, we were. There was just people swarming onto the boat, and I mean that's quite shocking. You've been at sea for 4 weeks, and it's like,
get out of my personal space.
Boat.
Yeah.
And your friends and your relatives are there, and there's champagne and the press, and then walking up to the Southampton Yacht Club, people were shaking our hands and patting us on the back and throwing flowers at us. I mean, it was one of the most extraordinary days of my life.
That's fine. I normally get tomatoes thrown at me. It's not quite the same, is it?
I think we would have thrown.
You broke 7 world records.
Well, not on that race.
That was another one. You just like, that's another one. I just like, so yeah, I wasn't even going to mention breaking the 7 world records, but you broke 7 world records in another race.
Yeah.
And again, who were you up against there?
I put together the first all-female crew to race a maxi multi-hull, and also to take on the French, who held all the ocean records at the time. We thought that was very unfair.
You beat the French.
So we made it our mission to remove as many records from French sailors as was humanly possible. We managed quite a few.
Fantastic. Bring it in again, girl. That is fantastic. What would you say to people, just wrap it up now, what would you say to people who have a goal and a dream and they want to achieve something fantastic with their life, whether it is doing something on a phenomenal scale like that, and you got an MBE from the Queen and everything, all of these awards, or they just want to go to the next level of their life, what would your advice for them to be?
I think my advice would be, you've got to see what's there. You've got to see the big picture, where you want to get to, what it's going to look like. Visualization is really important for me.
Yeah.
But then I think a lot of people make the mistake of then going, oh my God, that's so big and it's so far away. Oh, So you have that, but then you have to come down to here, right here, today, this moment, this, it's called the precious present. It's I call it the precious present. So you know where you're going. That's fine. To keep that in your mind, you've got to start somewhere. You've got to start with the first step, and it's got to be small. And then you've got to understand every part of the process. And then, one of the questions I get asked in schools the most is, what is the secret to success? And I go, I am so sorry to tell you this. I almost don't want to tell you this, but there is no secret. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard, relentless
Relentless,
work.
yes.
It's not giving up. And, for me, the nuts and bolts of things are so important. Understanding how to get there. You plan backwards from there, and then you start taking those little steps. And if you think, oh God, I'm not getting anywhere, you remind yourself, that's where I'm going, that's where I'm going, that's where I'm going. Yeah. But it's never losing that focus. Having said that, if you do go off message or off path or have to take a detour, that's okay. Yeah. As long as you're still looking at the steps that you need to take to get there. There's no magical I would love to be able to say, there is a secret.
It's been told a million times
It's
before.
not.
Yeah.
It's just hard graft.
That's fantastic. Tracy Edwards, MBE, thank you very much again for inviting us into your house. It has been an absolute honour and a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much.
So, what am I doing now? So 3 years ago, Maiden, my beautiful boat, was dumped in the Seychelles in the Indian Ocean. And she's been sitting there rotting ever since. And the marina contacted me and said, what do you think we ought to do with this boat? And I said, I think you ought to let me buy her. So we've started the Maiden Rescue Project. We're now fundraising to get Maiden back to the UK, where she belongs, after a 27-year absence. She will then be working with girls' education charities all over the world. She'll become an ambassador for girls' rights. She'll work with charities such as the Girls Network, UN Women, I Am Girl and Just a Drop. All organisations and entities which lobby for and fundraise for 65 million girls around the world who do not have a right to an education. So the Maiden Rescue Project will be fundraising over the next sort of 2 or 3 years. She'll be doing a world trip and working to get girls into school. And I kind of feel after my dodgy beginning in school that this is my way of giving something back.